Hello chess friends and welcome to Out of Chess channel and welcome back to our commented chess games played by computer series. So in this series we're following some great games that are played recently by top engines like Stockfish, Lila C0, Dragon and many more. And I found really now a brilliant game on the TCEC official website. The TCEC official website link will be in the description below, so you can also check out some other games. Maybe you can analyze also some other games for yourself in order to get a better preparation in particular openings and particular sidelines of openings. And of course we want to use also our day off because the world championship match between Magnus Carlsen and Nepomniachtchi will be continued tomorrow, so that's why I decided to show you again a really beautiful top engine game. So this game is really brilliant because the Nimzo-Indian Defense was on the board between Stockfish and Stoofvlees, and this Nimzo-Indian structures I think you face many times, so I think this game is very useful if you have problems maybe to beat the Nimzo-Indian Defense. So let's check out now the game. So here Stockfish open with the move c4, we have e6 d4, and after knight to f6 the game transposes into the Nimzo-Indian after move bishop to b4. So here we have the normal variation by Stockfish, which in my opinion is really one of the best ways to beat the Nimzo-Indian, because what we want to do here from white perspective is to play bishop to d3 and then knight to e2, because we don't want to challenge this bishop immediately. In the continuation, of course, black could play maybe here the castling. We can play, of course, bishop to d3, and maybe white can black can play d5 or c5. If d5 happens, still we can play maybe something like knight to e2, and then after castling also we can play a3. And but the most important thing about the normal variation is that we want to recapture with the knight. That's the most important thing. We don't want to recapture with the pawn. We don't want to mess up our pawn structure. So that's why I like, as I said, this normal variation. If black wants to take immediately after move bishop to b4 and we play the move e3, if black wants to take, he should do it, but at least we haven't challenged him so far. We haven't played the move a3, because after move a3 I think for sure that black will take out the knight on c3, and then you have too many pawns a little bit on darker, so the darker bishop of white can be maybe a positional problem then in the continuation of the game. So that's why, as I said, if you want to beat the Nimzo-Indian Defense, the normal variation is perfectly fine. You're delaying simply the a3 move and play bishop to d3 and the knight to e2. So here in the continuation we have c5, which is now the so-called Hübner variation of the Nimzo-Indian Defense. The most important thing about this idea is for black here to stay a little bit longer with the bishop here, because it's not so easy to challenge the dark bishop now in the continuation of the game, because here after move knight to e2, which we have seen now, and b6, we have now the move a3, and you see now black does have to take out here. Black does have to take out the knight on c3 immediately, because knight to c3 is happening, and then you see the white has, I think, now much better position, because white didn't mess up his pawn structure here on the queen side, so we don't have a double pawn structure here on the c file. And the most important thing is that white is continuing the game with a brilliant bishop here. In the near future we can expect moves like d5, then e4, and then finally this bishop will come into the game very actively. So that's why this Hübner variation that black is playing after move a3 with the preparation of the move c5 allows black now to stay a little bit longer with the bishop here, because you cannot challenge the bishop here with the move b4 immediately. But you see now how Stockfish will find beautiful ideas how to beat this bishop, because the bishop will stay there now forever, and that's not a good thing to have a bishop like this, because when we're playing against maybe one bishop like you have here the bishop on a5, one of the best ways is simply to get out of the range of the bishop. So we want to get all of the pieces out of the range, and when that happens basically this bishop is useless. So that's why I really liked the strategy that Stockfish will show us now in the continuation of the game. Stockfish played simply rook to b1, trying now the move b4, but now with the move knight to a6 you see Stoofvlees is also blocking out the potential b4 move of white. So here you cannot play knight to c6 in order to do the same thing, because you get challenged immediately with the move d5, and then when the knight retreats maybe something something like, I don't know, e takes d5, c takes d5, you play something like here e5, you see you lost the control of the b4 square, the knight gets deflected, and now with the move b4 the game is basically over here for black. So that's why after move rook to b1 the main line is the move knight to a6, and I've mentioned it several times here on my YouTube chess channel. I like really this TCEC games more than maybe some other games that are played maybe on this computer chess championships or some other events, because in the TCEC official website the lines that these two engines are playing are normal lines. So for instance, you have here a great game between Vishy Anand with the black pieces against Boris Gelfand, in which Anand destroyed Boris Gelfand in this particular line of the Nimzo-Indian. So as I said, this line is playable for white, this line is playable for black, so that's why it's maybe a common line that we should study of course further. So after move knight to a6, now knight to g3, very important move to finally liberate this light square bishop and secure the king by castling. So now we have bishop to b7, not allowing immediately bishop to e2 because then the g2 pawn is hanging, so that's why here you have to play f3, weaken a little bit the pawn structure. And here we have now castling, bishop to e2, now comes the move d5. Castling, also played by Stockfish, we have now d takes c4, bishop to c4, and the problem is now that you cannot actually take out this pawn in the center of the board. You would love to do that. Black would love, of course, this kind of a continuation, maybe something like, I don't know, queen to d4, then queen to d4, and then after e takes d4, this is now much better position for black, because black has accomplished that white is now here this isolated pawn. The activity of white's pieces is not much better than black's. In the near future we can expect, I think, rook to d8, rook to c8, and I think, as I said, black has a comfortable game, especially with this long diagonal of the light square bishop. This bishop is still good. We have seen also here maybe here with ideas like rook from a to c8, we can counterplay here on the c file. So it's not again easy for white to push the pawn on b4. So but here after move c takes d4, white doesn't have to play around the d4 square. Now white can play knight to b5, and you see now the b4 move is a serious threat. You don't have any good squares for your bishop. In the near future maybe you can try this idea, a rook to c8 in order to attack the bishop, and now the main line would be something like this: queen to e2. Now black has to play bishop to d5 in order to continue the pressure around the square c4, but now of course white has to react. Sorry, my screen moved. So after move bishop to d5, white needs to play bishop takes d5, and after queen to d5, still you cannot play the move b4 immediately, because you get a counterattack here with the move d3. So you would be forced first after move queen to e2, you have to play first e takes d4, and you see now the move b4 is really a serious threat. So it's not a really pleasant game here for black. Black would be forced to play something like queen to b3, but now knight to a7 happens, and I think white has a much better continuation. The knight on a6 is also weak, so as I said, this is not a good position. It's already a +2 evaluation here for white. So that's why, as I said, here after move bishop takes c4, you cannot take the pawn on d4. As I said, you would love to play that. It would be such a beautiful simplified line for black, but so far Stockfish calculated this tactics very easily and found now good continuation. So after move bishop to c4, queen to e7 was played by Stoofvlees, controlling the b4 square. You see the whole battle is around the square b4. In the continuation we have now knight to e4, again a beautiful move here by Stockfish, and after move knight to d5, queen to e2, attacking the knight on a6. Now knight to b8 was played here by Stoofvlees, and now rook to d1, including now all of the pieces into the game. Again, I'm pointing out this idea c takes d4 is never working because of our main threat here from white's perspective. It's the move b4. So you should always consider that, because if you're calculating now maybe something for yourself at home in this position, always consider this move b4 as the main threat here for white. So here after move rook to d1, we have now knight to c6. You see again the Stoofvlees maneuver the knight on a natural square. This is now still a good knight now in the center of the board. We have now bishop takes d5, which was, I think, a brilliant choice now for Stockfish. You see now the idea behind this move. Giving up the bishop here sometimes in an early stage of the game like this can be risky, but Stockfish has a clear idea in mind, because Stockfish wants to take over here and take this very important f5 square. So here we have e takes d5, knight to f5, attacking the queen, and after queen to e6, now look at this knight in the center of the board. The knights are dancing here in front of black's king, already a very tricky position here for black. So in the continuation, we have bishop to c8. You could maybe try this tactic, knight takes d4, using this temporarily pressure on the e5, but actually it's not so good. Again, rook to d4. You see after c takes d4, as we said, the main threat in the continuation of the game is always the move b4. Now b4, okay, will I think give here, I think, much better chances for white. So that's why here rook bishop to c8 instead of this move knight takes d4. Here Stoofvlees tried a different way to include the light square bishop into the game. We have now e4. Again, if you try, again I'm pointing out, just keep always focused here around the square d4 and b4. You can really never play something like knight takes d4, again knight takes d4, c takes d4 and b4. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but sometimes you see, first of course we take and then we play b4. So sometimes we get a little bit deflected somehow. The game continues and then we forget about our first idea. So that's why I'm explaining maybe this b4 move a little bit more. So here after move e4 that Stockfish played, you see Stoofvlees still cannot battle for the d4 square, plays now queen to f6, and now knight takes c8. We have rook to c8 and now queen to e3. Here Stockfish is trying to get the queen into the game because the knight is very powerful here, including now all of the pieces into the game is now the most important strategical idea. So here h6, not allowing queen to g5. Here we have queen to f4, we have rook to d8, and now queen to g4. Now there is this threat of knight takes h6, because if you try it now here knight to d4, then you get first knight to h6. You cannot take, of course, with the queen, the bishop is protecting that. You cannot also take the pawn with the pawn because of the pressure on the g file. So here after move queen to g4, we have king to h7. We have now e takes d5, rook to d5, and now a brilliant move by Stockfish, double attack, knight to e3, attacking this rook on d5, but also the rook on c8. So here that's why rook to d8 and now d5. All of this beautiful tactics just to create this dangerous pass pawn, really wild stuff. And still there is always this pressure, because here you see after move knight to d4, now comes finally the beautiful idea of the move b4. b4. The whole game was the beautiful b4 concept here. Now, of course, you see if you take the defense is deflected here, you lose the knight on d4. So that's why here knight to e2, Stoofvlees found also beautiful tactics how to get out of this mess. Here after move king to f2, now knight to c3, and it seems so that something went wrong here for Stockfish, because Stockfish will lose the rook. But of course the Stockfish engine is the best calculated this tactics very easily. Here we have bishop to d2 first, attacking the knight. We have knight to b1, but now after rook to b1, still you see this bishop is trapped. We have queen to d4, counter attack on the bishop. So now queen to e4. Good idea here by Stockfish to simplify the game by trading off more pieces, because after queen to e4, f takes e4, you see these are now two connected pawns. The supported pass pawn on d5 is really beautiful, and now in the near future, of course, we'll take out also the bishop pawn on a5, and with these two minor pieces, with this very powerful pawn on d5, this is now completely winning game here for white, because the problem for black is also that the c2 square is taken, so no way that black is going to infiltrate into the position by playing rook to c2. So that's why here it's a much better continuation for white. So after move queen to e4, Stoofvlees is trying to simplify the spice up the game, pardon me, with move g6, trying to stay with many pieces on the board. But now rook to d1, we have rook to c7, bishop to e1, counter-attack here against the queen. We have queen to b2, but now after king to g1, here finally c takes b4, but now after a takes b4, still you see this bishop is trapped. Okay, here f5, played by Stoofvlees. Stoofvlees is trying really to battle here, is trying to compete now, but after move f5 still, after queen to f4, the queen can stay and protect now the b4 pawn, which is now the most important thing. If you try g5, of course, then we play first a check and then we take out the bishop. So after move queen to f4, we have a rook to c8, we have a b takes a5, we have rook to c1, competing now on the first rank. Now Stoofvlees finally found a way to include the rooks into the game, but it's a little bit too slow, because here Stockfish found a brilliant move how to attack further the position. Now h4, because after b takes a5, now comes this move h5, splitting the pawn chain. Very important thing here by Stockfish. Here we have rook to d1, we have finally here h takes g6. The problem is now you cannot take king takes g6, because you get first queen to f5, and this is a very dangerous check. So then afterwards, of course, you lose the rook on d1. So that's why after h takes g6, here king to g8 was played. But now after knight to d1, here we have queen to e2, and again it seems so that something went wrong here for Stockfish, because Stockfish is losing now a minor piece. Stockfish will lose either the knight on d1 or the bishop on e1, but now Stockfish plays bishop to g3, sacrifices the knight, but after queen to d1, king to h2, and now this is completely winning here for Stockfish, because it seems so again that Stoofvlees is defended after queen to d5, but now after queen to h6, this is now a position that you cannot defend. The main threats are queen to h7 and queen to f7, also including this bishop into the game. If you try something like, I don't know, rook to c6, then you get simply queen to h7, and if you play, of course, king to f8, then g7 followed with g8 is simple win for white. If you try something else, if you try maybe to protect yourself with the queen on the 7th rank, then bishop to e5 is happening, and you cannot protect anymore your hx square. So again, it's game over. You're getting even checkmated here in this particular scenario. So after move queen to h6, here Stoofvlees tried a4, we have queen to h7, but now again this idea g7 and g8, the promotion, queen takes g8, queen takes g8, it's now completely winning endgame. King to d7, queen to d5, a couple of checks here. Now the bishop comes into the game. You can prolong the game by sacrificing the rook, but now here after queen to e7, it was a beautiful checkmate here by Stockfish. So really great game. I think this is beautiful, this is useful, because sometimes I think you meet this idea, this Hübner variation, in which let's go back, Black is playing the move c5 and is trying to stay a little bit longer and is trying to keep the tension on this long diagonal. Don't worry, I think here Stockfish showed us really a brilliant way how to play the game with this move knight to e2 and then with this rook to b1 preparation in order to trap the bishop. So we have seen the bishop became basically the main problem of Black's for the whole game. In the beginning it was the most active piece, but as I said, in the later stage of the game it became the main issue here of this Stoofvlees engine. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed the game. I really enjoyed it a lot. Interesting ideas of the Nimzo-Indian Defense. If you want to see more brilliant, brutal and tactical games like this, check out my commented chess games played by computer series with some more games from the past played by Stockfish, Lila-C0, Alpha-0 and many more. And if you want to follow our World Chess Championship that's going on now these days, check out my coverage so far with some games that we have analyzed before. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos, and chess is the best, of course.